This will be a 1AR response to the Leland neg block. In their previous speech, the negative team said that if they poke a single hole in the affirmative plan, we should send it back to the drawing board. But imagine this. There was an island with 100 people stranded on it, and a boat came. It could not return, but it had to leave, and it could only carry those 99 people, or the 99 people back to shore. It would do that, even if it left that one person, because it is overall a net benefit to those people. Evaluate our plan just like that. Our plan does provide a net benefit to that, and that a net benefit to the status quo, and that is how you should evaluate today's debate. So with that, let's start off with the stock issue of inherency. Under inherency, it is the negative team's burden to prove that offensive cyber operations have already been created and are currently working. They make one argument. First, which is that NATO has already addressed cyber defense and created cyber defense centers, as well as launched cyber attacks and has Article 5 to retaliate for those cyber attacks. I have a couple of responses to this. First, those defensive infrastructure are not enough to fully execute and defend, as our pieces of harms evidence prove that we've already lost $945 billion because of cyber attacks. Second, Article 5 has never been attributed to an attack, even though the Colonial Pipeline and Microsoft have been attacks, yet we have not punished our aggressor. Third, Article 5 is a blatant overreaction to cyber attacks. If Russia were to cyber attack us for $1 million, we could match that severity of cyber attack with the affirmative plan. But if we keep the status quo and that rises to the level of armed conflict, NATO would send all of its militaries to meet Russia. So with that, let's move on to the stock issue of harms. Under harms, it is the negative team's burden to prove that there are no cyber attacks currently harming anyone. Currently, they have failed under that burden. They make two arguments. First, that Russia has launched no cyber attacks in the last 9 months, but they forget to account for cyber attacks that happened just in August, which are the Montenegro government attacks and the Finnish government attacks and the LastPass attack. All of these attacks were perpetrated by Russia, and they all happened incredibly recently, showing that Russia is still cyber attacking. And next, the only piece of evidence they read on no cyber attacks in the future is from 9 months ago. So because I've already provided examples of times when Russia has cyber attacked in the last 9 months, it is clear that they will continue to attack. The second argument they make under the stock issue of harms is that there are no impacts of cyber attacks. But remember from our very first speech when we explained that we will lose $10 trillion by 2025 if we do not respond to cyber attacks. So with that, let's move on to the stock issue of solvency. Under solvency, it is the negative team's burden to prove that offensive cyber operations will not deter our aggressors from cyber attacking us. And currently, they have failed under that stock issue. They make, first, an argument that says that NATO will say no because they have differing opinions around offensive cyber operations. I have a couple of responses to this. First, it is contradictory with their inherency argument about Article 5. If NATO can't cooperate, why have you already stated that they have? Second, all countries are affected by Russian offensive cyber operations and will want to cooperate. And third, that piece of evidence is talking about a time when the US did reconnaissance on other NATO countries, not in the context of Russia attacking another country and NATO having to cooperate. Thus, obviously, countries would be angry with the US, but that is not what an offensive cyber operation is. The second argument they make is that OCOs fail because of expensive infrastructure. First, we already lose $945 billion from cyber attacks, and we will continue to lose another $9 trillion. Second, in their own inherency evidence, they say that we already have the infrastructure for defense. The fourth argument they make is that our plan is too vague, because first, they don't know who organizes it, and they don't know if there's a consensus needed for every launch. I can answer this. First, NATO experts decide the severity of a cyber attack and then match that attack. That is who organizes it. And second, a consensus is needed only through those NATO experts. The fourth argument they make is that it is impossible to attribute a cyber attack. But all major cyber attacks have been attributed as of recently, and we've read evidence saying that it is becoming easier and easier to attribute cyber attacks as time goes on. So with that, let's move on to the stock issue of the disadvantage, where it is the affirmative team's burden to prove that offensive cyber operations will cause no effects in the long term that will hurt us more. They make only two arguments under this, which is, first, that we will trade off with money going to Ukraine and that NATO is financially struggling. First, our plan helps Ukraine. Second, NATO allies can pitch in. The US has an $845 billion military budget. Third, their piece of evidence about NATO financially struggling just says that we don't have air defenses. That says nothing about NATO financially struggling. And their only argument is that offensive cyber operations will escalate with Russia. But all we are providing is a retaliatory attack, meaning even if Russia would never attack us, because at that point they're just asking to be cyber attacked back. So when they bring up examples of when the U.S. would cyber attack them back, if the U.S. were to cyber attack them, they would cyber attack us, that would not be happening. And first of all, that doesn't even relate to our plan, because all we are doing is creating an escalatory attack. Thank you.